I really want to work outside the box. I don't want to make chocolate that people eat in front of the television. It's very important that people, when they bite into my chocolate or eat my desserts, they're really into the moment. They analyze all the different layers and they understand the vision why I made certain things the way I did. I'm Julius Persoone. I'm a third generation chocolate maker, a pastry chef and a food lover. When I was younger and I saw my father creating new chocolates, he was already very innovative. He made, in the beginning of the 90s, chocolate with wasabi, with soy sauce, very experimental at that time. I remember when I was a kid, we used to deliver to all the big restaurants here in Belgium. Every Friday we brought the chocolates that they would be serving there. And if I would see the kitchen team, they're active, it made me really fall in love with cooking. So before I became a pastry chef, I studied to become a chef cooking in the kitchen. And then later in life, I fall in love with pastry and chocolate because I saw in my vision that as a chocolatier, you're not only limited to what a classic chocolate should be. Of course, you have to have respect for traditions, like a chocolate with hazelnut or caramel has to stay. But you can watch much further. When I started working here in Chocolate Line, it was still with the old team of my father that we made the chocolates. And we had some different visions about the future. And in 1 month, the old team that worked 25 years with my father, they all left. So we had to create a new team. And because I come from the kitchen world, I called all my friends who were working in kitchens, yeah, what do you think, working chocolates and making creative things? And that's how I built my new team. Now we're with 35 people that we are making the chocolates every day, and most of them are cooks as well. Good morning, everybody. For this week, we do the koi fish, the Japanese cherry blossom filling. Then we start also with the next type of koi fish with black sesame and mango. Also, we start with the Easter. So at a certain moment, we really felt, okay, chocolate is very nice. We can do very experimental things with flavor of rainwater, grass, based on mother milk. But we still felt that we had some room over, some creativity over that we really wanted to create into a dessert. That's the way how we started the dessert bar as well. And because every couple of years I go with my team of chocolatiers, I go to our productions in Mexico or Plantation, and I showed my team all the different spices we grow in Mexico, the cacao, the special plants, and that's when we decided, when we started with dessert bar, we'll only use ingredients that we grow on our plantation in Mexico. That's very important for us, that we really could bring the identity of our plantation into the dishes.
So welcome guys to the Julius Chocolate Bar. In the Julius Chocolate Bar we don't serve alcohol, but we wanted to make a sort of like aperitif style, and we made a chocolate based on maracuya, allspice and tequila. All ingredients from our cacao plantation in Mexico, and we serve it on a Goliath tarantula that we found dead on our plantation in Mexico, because we wanted to bring the whole terroir into your first dish. So please enjoy.
2012, we started the chocolate line cacao plantation in Mexico because we couldn't find the quality of chocolates that we want to work with. So the only way that we could do it was to grow our own cacao. So we started in Mexico. We're the only plantation in the world. We only grow Criollo cacao. So usually in Africa you have mostly forastero. In Mexico it's usually Criollo. It's the oldest type as well. And the reason why we wanted to work with the Criollo is the most delicate cocoa bean and has the best flavor profile. And in the Criollo family you have lots of different varieties. So this is Criollo Samuel. This is monkey cacao, Criollo. So it's a very small Criollo type and it's called monkey cacao. And this is porcelana, Criollo porcelana, which is the most and purest cocoa bean, and also goes back farther to the time of the Mayas. I go now on our plantation in Mexico, and I'm now testing to make my own crosses of cacao. And with the team there, the people, most important, because I say a lot to the chocolatiers and pastry chefs who work with me here in Belgium, what we do, it's the easy jobs. What they have to do on the plantation, that's real harsh jobs. Because that's for me very important when we go to Mexico with the team here, that they see that they help on the plantation, that they have more respect for the cocoa when it comes here to Belgium, and when they make a mistake, that they know how much work it was for the farmers to grow that cocoa. And also the other way around, my team in Mexico, in groups of 2, we take them to Belgium, that they can work in our production site, work in the dessert bar, that they can see what we do with the Hoya Santa, with the key lime, with the agastache, with the achote that they grow. That it's not just something that they ship to Belgium and they don't know what's the reason why we use it. I think that's very important. That brings a connection to the whole team, and that's what makes the way of thinking better. So, as a first drink for tonight, we have our lacto-fermented cocoa pods. So it's a fresh cocoa bean. This is a Criollo type that we cut open. We lacto-ferment it, and that's the base of our drink. And it starts to taste a bit like lychee. And we combine it with fresh allspice. So it's allspice that we grow on our plantation in Mexico. It's very aromatic. We crush it a bit and we add it to your glass, and it gives a lot of like a peppery vibe. And this is the inside of the Criollo porcelana. And when you taste it raw, it's really the lychee flavor, but we really want to create the umami, so that's why we lacto-ferment it. And like the first dish you have into the dessert bar is the cacao husk miso ice cream. Normally when the cocoa arrives from Mexico, we roast it on a low temperature, around 120 degrees, 12-14 minutes. And then you take off the husk from the cocoa nib. The cocoa nib, you make it to use chocolates, but the husk, usually it got thrown away. But we have lots of husk, and I said, we have to do something with the husk. So we decided to make a miso, cocoa husk miso out of the husk. From that husk, we make an ice cream, and we bring it in combination with a snow we make of kosho key limes. So the key limes, the typical limes from Mexico, we use the zest, the juice in our production to make the pralines, and from the pulp, the leftover, we make a snow to finish off your first dish that you have. And we serve it into a plate made from soil from our plantation in Mexico. So it's a dish completely zero waste, made with all ingredients that you would normally throw away. To really have my guest experience that you have to look further than just making things you know. Try some different things. So first we started with the outer shell, so the cocoa husk. Now we work with the inside, the cocoa nib. Classically, cacao gets roasted at 180 degrees when you buy chocolate in supermarket. Classic bean to bar, 120 degrees. And this is a chocolate that we roasted much lower. We go around 80, 90 degrees. And we also added koji. So koji that we grow on the cocoa nibs of our plantation in Mexico to make the chocolate with. Then we let it age for a couple of months and it becomes very umami. This chocolate is actually also the base chocolate that I use for the chocolates that I made for throat cancer patients, because of the umami, you produce a lot more saliva. So for your dish, your next dish, you will produce extra saliva and create like a very umami chocolate. So for you, we have our Koji-Aged chocolate mousse. Comes in combination with the juice that we made of Hoya Santa. Hoya Santa is a Mexican anise plant, and we bring it in combination with an oil of huacatay. Huacatay is crossed between menthe and cilantro, and it brings a very a round umami flavor. So what I now do, every 2 weeks, I try to have a video call with my team in Mexico to check what plants are ready. Like for instance, it's the moment of the canela, of the vanilla, the allspice, the chili habanero. And then we try to arrange shipments to Belgium. And that's with those ingredients, we try to create every time new menus based on the ingredients that are ripe at that moment. But on our plantation, so we grow different spices, different types of Criollo cacao. But also on our plantation, you have space and places where it's impossible to grow like spices and cacao because you have lots of rocks. So with that space, we thought we had to do something. And because next to every cacao tree, you have to plant a banana tree to have the shade. Otherwise, the plant will burn. And after a certain moment, my team said, "Patron, we are tired with eating bananas. We cannot see them anymore. What we do with the bananas?" They say, give them to the animal rescue center in Mexico. So a couple of months later, they called me, they said, "We cannot see bananas anymore. They don't want any more bananas. It's too much." So then we contacted the animal rescue center and we said, you know what? Otherwise, you bring the animals to us and we take care of the animals on our plantation. So that's the way how we started the Chocolate Line We Care Foundation on our plantation in Mexico, where we rescue wild spider monkeys. So on our plantation, we take care of the monkeys. We give them all the bananas and fruits, what they want. We have mango. It's really like Club Med on the plantation. It's really romantic. So that's the goal with the Chocolate Line We Care Plantation, to really be able to let the animals back into the nature. Like for instance, we have now a jaguar, also from a Narcos. They pulled all the teeth of the jaguar, and then it's like a big house cat. And now we work together with a guy who printed the teeth in 3D. And it's very cute. You see now the big jaguar with the plastic teeth. Super happy that he has teeth again. And we hope one day he or his cubs will be able to release back into the nature. So for your next dish, we use zapotec. It's like a typical fruit from South America, Mexico, and we use the nuts. And when you cut it, it really has a flavor like marzipan amaretto, and that's the base for your dish. So if you smell it, it's really a very strong perfume. We made a sauce based on achote and zapotec. Achote is what the Mayas used as a maker, and zapotec is the typical nut from Mexico. Then we have a gel from chile habanero from our plantation in Mexico, ice cream that we made of avocado and kaffir lime. And then we bring it in combination with mango and vanilla beans from Virunga National Park in Congo. And then we have a granité that we made of key lime and cilantro. We finish your dish with our dried Royal Belgium caviar to create like a very ceviche style dish. And your dish is served in a yicara. It's like the traditional dish that the Mayas also used to eat out of. Enjoy. In the cacao harvesting periods, you have usually two periods. You have the harvest in summer season when it's very dry, very hot. And then you have a much smaller drying period over the cocoa trees. What happens then is you have a lot of acidity in your cacao bean and in your chocolate as well. When you have the harvest in rain season, it's much more humid and you create more like a mossy, foresty flavor into your chocolate. So you can really play with the different fermentation process, drying process on the plantation to create a very specific type of cacao. Like for instance, we also play with the third type of fermentation. Classically, cacao has two types of fermentation. You have an alcoholic fermentation, you have a lactic fermentation, and then you have a drying process. But what we do on our plantation, we add sometimes yeast of sourdough bread to create a very acidic cacao. Like for instance, the chocolate I made in 2019 for throat cancer patients, we used the acidic cacao because we found out that acidity in cacao naturally triggers your saliva production that makes chocolates easier to swallow. Now we go more to like an experimental part of the menu. We do a lot of collaboration with the medical world, and this next dish, it's like a thing in advance, the dish of the future, neurotransmitters. One of the dishes you have is the brain freeze, and it's an ode to the collaboration that we do now with Marc Plaisir, the neurosurgeon, based on different neurotransmitters. So I think making a dessert menu is something that people are a bit afraid of in the beginning because they think it's going to be super sweet, but actually in our place it's not at all the idea. We really want to make savory desserts that at the end of your menu you don't feel like you have a sugar overdose. We really want to feel balance, sweet, umami, sugar, salt. That's very important. For me, the aesthetic is a very important subject because in the past I made a collaboration with Momut, the fashion academy in Belgium, and we made a chocolate collection box in collaboration with the most famous Belgian designers like Dries van Noten, Raf Simons, Walter van Berendonck, and they're all fashion designers. So they showed their signature clothing piece and they had to make a chocolate based on that dress or suit. So what I found out, I asked them, what's the reason you created this or that? So aesthetics is very important because it really helps create the whole idea of a chocolate. One of the most popular dishes in Mexico, cochinita pibil. It's our version in a dessert. So we have crispy pork that we cooked under the ground. Comes in combination with an ice that we made of beurre noisette, like a typical French way of caramelizing butter. And then we made an uxmal verde sauce and some pickled mustards. One of my signature desserts is mole. Because I'm a huge fan from Mexico. I had calls with my team and they say, yeah, we have this spice and this spice and this spice ready. So instead of making every time a new mole dessert, we just use the first batch mole we ever made and we work further on that type of mole to create a dessert. We bring it in combination with peanuts, with the agastache, it's like an anise plant, the achote, and the crispy topinambur. So the idea is you go into the dessert like a taco and you combine it with the rainbow corn. And it's really a hybrid between a dessert and a main dish because you have everything, spicy, acidity, crunchiness, and that's what makes it very cool. So we wake up this morning very early and we roasted the Criollo cacao, low temperature, grind it for a couple of hours to create for you the freshest cacao mass as possible. 100% cacao massa or spoon. The 4 hours old cacao mass in combination with the honey of milipona. So milipona are very small bees that live on our plantation in Mexico. They don't have a sting and they pollinate the whole our plantation. So the whole terroir, you can find it back into the spoon. It's a powerful kick and this is how real cacao should taste like. The reason why we choose the graffiti in our factory as Willy Wonka, because I think it's important to let the children dream. That as a chef you have to think further than only making a very nice dessert or a dish or a chocolate. I think when you can really help people, I think that's the next step. I think there's no thing that has a better feeling as a chef that you can really change people's lives if you work with the medical world and really helping people.